What's up, good people? This is Jimmy Abada Hood, and welcome to this live. This is our Friday show. We come every Friday, just for an hour to talk to the people and talk about different topics in the world of finance, and Black community building. So we try to have a platform where we get people to come on and join us, and people can ask questions, and we talk about some relevant topics. I got my partner with me, Corey. Corey, what's going on, good brother?
I'm eating, man. I'm chilling. I'm living. I'm breathing. So everything is good, man.
No doubt, no doubt, man. We got a special guest with us this Friday. We got Reek Estate, as they call him on IG and all over the internet. We got my brother Tarik McAllister. Tariq, how are you?
I'm well, bro. Oh man.
Oh man, that's what's up. That's what's up, man. I hear hear the money, right there, man. That's the money call.
Oh,
Um,
my, my, I'm
no,
well,
it's all
man.
gravy. Listen,
I'm over
for
here.
the folks that go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm over here trying to shut down phones and keep my airways clean and stuff. I'm over here with the sniffles, man, dealing with these babies. I don't
Okay.
got the COVID, man. I just got a common cold. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Get
And you
over
got you
it.
got you got you got to be clear about that shit in 2020 though.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
2020, you gotta let cats know that.
Can't even have
Listen,
allergies.
I see folks are coming in now. For those watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you hit like, share this, and bring your questions. And if you got a black-owned business, let us know. We like to highlight black-owned businesses. But before we get into the topic, right, which is passing assets to the next generation, man, just want to see how you brothers are doing. Like, what's going on with you in the trading world, Corey? How you making out with this market?
Uh, I mean, I didn't buy anything new this week. I sold some puts this week. I sold some puts on Neo. I sold some $11 puts at like 110 a piece. And made a few bucks off that. I won't say how many I bought, and then I also bought some. Sold some puts on plug energy. Um,
Okay,
and then I took that money and put it into my long term investment accounts. The
got you,
same
got you.
four
Rick, last
companies
time we
all
talked
this
to
while.
you, Rick, last time we talked to you, you were working on a big project in
Yep,
North Philly, those big buildings, man. How did COVID affect what you had going on? Because you were working on a big development.
man. Primarily affected me from a construction standpoint with collaboration with the city. With them shutting
Yeah.
down, it delayed a very important portion of the project, which was me connecting to the city's main drainage system. So I had to bring new lateral
Hmm.
drain lines into each of the buildings. Man, it was crazy. Like I had shared it on my page. Like we had to go 32 feet across the street and about 8 to 9 feet deep, and it was crazy. Like
Sheesh.
yeah, it was like so we had to
Yeah.
do that like in order to pretty much finalize everything, which should have actually been done a little early on, but we discovered that the private sewer lines going to the rear of the house were clogged, and then pretty much we were gearing up to get everything ready to go, and then boom, March came around, city shut down. We weren't able to get street closures. We weren't able to get the proper permits and everything. So it drastically delayed things a couple of months. But fortunately, we were resilient and persistent in getting it done. Still was marketing it for pre-leasing and everything, and we came out
Hmm.
on the better side of of fighting through it, man. So we were able to go ahead and get things situated, and we back up and running. Still have a couple of the units available for rent. So yeah, anybody looking for
Okay.
rental units, I have quite a few. You know what I mean? Throughout the Strawberry Mansion area, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, even a couple homes as well, for 3 and 4 bedroom houses. So get with the team,
Okay,
leasing
that's what's up.
deals.com.
And what's that site again?
The email for our direct contact for our leasing agent is leasing@mmideals.com.
Okay, leasing at mmIdeals.com. Okay, we'll make sure we share that. Yeah, man. So the topic this evening, man, and for those watching, make sure you bring some questions. Like I said, share this, hit the like button. but we want to talk about passing assets to the next generation, right? Because this is very problematic. Now, Reek shared an article with us this week, and it was an older article, but I had never read it. So when I read it, I was going through it, and I'm like, whoa, it's so many lessons in this article. And we'll share this article after the episode is over. So we're going to put it on our page. Everybody take a look at this article. And I'll put it on our Twitter page too, our Twitter with Bodyhood as well. So for those who may not have Facebook, look for this article. And it's about land and property within the African American community. I just want to read to start the conversation off. I just want to read a couple of things from this article. The first thing it says is 76% of African Americans do not have a will, and that's more than twice the percentage of white Americans. It says many assume that not having a will keeps land in the family, but in reality, it jeopardizes ownership. And that was said by David Dietrich, who's the former co-chair of the American Bar Association. Property Preservation Task Force is his title. So 76% of African Americans do not have a will. And it says between 1910 and 1997, African Americans lost about 90% of their farmland. And they said this contributes to the racial wealth gap. So that's a huge percentage of people that don't have their paperwork done, 76%. So when I read those stats off to you, like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And either one you could chime in.
You go ahead first, Reek.
Man, it's jaw dropping, because oftentimes when we talk about the racial wealth gap in America, we oftentimes direct our attention, at least I know when I have a lot of these conversations, we direct our attention to 40, 50 years ago, and we reference redlining, right? And this article in particular takes it further back, and it references many other things that were put into legal position for people to, in addition to redlining, that would happen in the 50s and 60s and 70s, way before that, where African Americans in this country were actually homeowners and landowners, but have been screwed over, for lack of a better term, through these different avenues, and it was just, I shared the article, and again, you as you mentioned, it was older, but it couldn't be more relevant today, So
and it's a very powerful article, and also just be like, so Corey, I'm gonna let you go before I take my piece. Corey, what did you think about it?
I was shocked at the actual numbers, but I wasn't shocked that was going on. We read a lot. You read more than I do, but I read a lot. And so I know some of these numbers, just being in the market and then doing some, shoot off studies. I know, a lot of the generational wealth is not generational because it doesn't get passed on correctly. And so I knew that part, and I knew some of the numbers, but when you say 90% of the farmland was lost, I didn't know that part. Like that was like, damn, like that was like a metal baseball bat to the face. Like 90% of the agricultural land that we had was lost from
literally it's because we just didn't have our paperwork straight.
No, not because, not all of it. Not all of it. It's
well,
not all of it.
Well, not all of it, but a huge percentage of it. It says 76% don't have their paperwork straight. There are other reasons why. So 90% is the total number that we lost. But a lot of it is literally because we believe, getting to another point. All right, historically speaking, we have a reason not to trust big business and government. So because of that, many people were thinking like, look, I'm just going to not do this because I don't trust the courts to pass it down if I do the paperwork. So what happens is we don't know the game, so we end up losing because we don't know the game. So that's problematic too. But go ahead, finish your point though, Corey.
Yeah, and so it was amazing to me how many different avenues were used to move people off their land. Like I understood that it was happening, but when they were describing it in detail, man, like I wanted to tool up. Like I just wanted to just tool up, like, because it was unbelievable the different ways, once the will wasn't in place and it was left, um, you know, up to the state, the different weaselly ways. I don't even know. Weaselly is the only way I can describe it, man. Like how these corporations and how these developers was getting in and taking over these plots of land, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
is like redlining is like when we need reparations, we need them joints now, man. Like, because when you read these articles and you read these stories and you
Yeah.
read these books and you read the history of how heinous the this country was toward black people, man, is un is like unbelievable is not even the correct term, man. It was just like it was so mind numbing that I had to put the article down and come back to it. It took me like 45 minutes to read a 3-4 page article. Like, it was unbelievable. I had to put it down because I was like, damn, like, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't fathom the nuts that it takes to do to some of the stuff that they were doing.
Now, I want
Yeah.
to jump in real quick on there.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Man, you touched on it, but I wanted to pull something from the article that you referenced, Corey. You said that the Weasel Tactics, if you will, that were used during this time. Another part of the article, and like I said to you guys off air, like, man, this is something that from this, as an educator, I can literally take this one article and create a full blown lesson plan off of it for several weeks, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular point that I wanted to highlight was from the article where it referenced that in 1876, near the end of Reconstruction, only about 5% of black families in the Deep South owned land. But a new group of black landowners soon established themselves. Many had experience in fields and they began buying farms, often in places that aired of swampy soil, especially along the coast. So by the 1920s, African Americans, who made up 10% of the population, represented 14% of Southern farmer owners. So subsequently after that, you have white supremacist backlash spread across the South. At the end of the 19th century, members of movements who called themselves white caps, led by poor white farmers, pretty much came
Burned them out
through
of their jaw.
to the black landowners at night. It says beating them, threatening to murder them, and if they didn't abandon their homes. So it's like a story of like, okay, post 1865, post Juneteenth, we're promised that okay, you guys are free. What do you need to live? They say, they reference in the article, a spokesperson of a group of black people said, look, we need land. We need land. We harvest land. We'll live off the land. Pretty much, like, literally, like, we will reap the benefits from what we sow. Like, we're going to plant this land and then we're going to grow and we're going to harvest it, and that's what we're going to survive off of. All right, cool. That never actually happened. We got screwed out of that. They say roughly only 5% of black people in the South actually only were given the land. Fast forward, we're like, all right, y'all not gonna give it to us. We're gonna work for it. We're gonna earn it. We're gonna buy it ourselves. We do that, and then we start intimidating other people, and they say, oh wait, hold on, you buying it? You harvesting the land and you making money off of it? Oh no, now I gotta intimidate you. And unfortunately, because we are very far removed from 1865 at this point, we may be a generation or two away from it. In the early 1900s, a lot of people, their parents were slaves. They were themselves slaves. Who these farmers, the farm owners were at this time. They hightail. They like, look, I don't even want to go through that again. You can have it. I'm gone. And it's just crazy that so many people, including myself, didn't know about these particular tactics. I didn't know about this. I knew about redlining. I know about a lot of different things as it pertains to history, but these specific things as it pertains to how the land had became unoccupied and how someone utilized a law that was in place to exploit the fact that the land wasn't occupied, and the reason why it was unoccupied to begin with was beyond me, you know. And it just, I think, it's truly a testament of like of shining the light on why, in fact, we as Blacks in America truly need to be made whole with equity, because our
absolutely
literally stripped from us, even when we pulled up, as some people like to say, we pulled ourselves up from our bootstraps and made the shit happen ourselves, and it was still taken.
And it's been multiple times in history that's happened, right?
Multiple times, and it happened. Then you fast forward into the civil rights movement, and then you fast forward into the redlining, and then you fast forward, to the 80s crack epidemic. Then it just continues and continues and continues, man. So it's like a cycle of us being mistreated, us persevering, getting through the mistreatment, making something out of nothing, and then being knocked down again systematically over and over and over.
That's the key word you just said, right? So when people talk about racism and things like the system, right? So it's systematic. Some of these things you're talking about are systematic. It's not just like, hey, I hate Black folks, but what about the system that's in place, right? And it's harmed so many times. And my brother B. Austin always likes to say, people like to talk about people don't like to talk about how the problems came to be. They just want to talk about the problems. But we have to take a step back and figure out how these problems, right? It's cause and effect. What's the cause of all this? Because there's so much wealth that's lost. When you talk about 90% of our farmland being lost over several generations, that's a lot of wealth. When you talk about us not coming home and being able to exercise our VA loans, that's a lot of wealth. The racial wealth gap can literally be it's literally property. It's literally property. Not to mention, shout out to Jose. He just want to chime in and say, what's up, Jose? How you? Peace, brother. But and then when you get to the other side of the equation, we start talking about like equity in the markets. We weren't even allowed to participate in that, right? There's a book called
equity in the market.
There's a book that too. We can get back. That's another point. That's another point. We were born but there's a book called The Prince of Darkness, which is about the first Black millionaire on Wall Street, Jeremiah Hamilton. He was a scumbag of a person, but he was a genius when it came to the markets. And part of it is he used to have to get white proxies because Black folks weren't allowed to trade. Although he was one of the better traders and knew the market better than everybody, he wasn't able to participate. But how many people didn't take that step that he took? So it's just wealth loss right there. You talk about our land being taken from us, our businesses being taken from us. But this article, and again, I tell everybody I'm going to share this article. As a matter of fact, let me share it right now within the comment section. But it's so powerful because it gives a lot of information about some of this land down south. And the crazy part about that is we're talking about acres of land. Right. So I just put it on our YouTube as well as our Facebook. We're talking about acres of land. These are acres and acres. And now I want to bring it to this point and get your brother to chime in. Another thing this made me think about is, as someone who buys real estate in Philadelphia, I see it all the time where we have similar problems where people don't have wills and they end up losing their property. I go to the sheriff's auction and the properties in our neighborhoods are there because there's so many tangled titles, because a lot of us just don't know the system or understand how to pass property. So, and the worst case is when I see someone who actually has a will and it's like grandmom leaves it to like 6 grandkids, and then they fight over it. They never make a decision. It ends up getting lost for taxes. So I think that's another thing that we need to be made whole. But even moving forward, we need to find out a way to maintain the wealth that we do accumulate.
Right.
Even with stocks and insurance, I found out so they play a game with this too, right? So I lost my mother earlier this year to cancer, but one of the things she did is she had her paperwork straight. But what I learned through the process is like talking to someone from the life insurance company, right? Because she had her paperwork together, I was able to handle everything to the point where it's done. And I know people that were going through the same process that started way before me who still aren't finished yet because they just didn't have paperwork. So that's the power of having your paperwork straight.
Right.
But with life insurance now, some of the games they play, let's just say for argument's sake, someone leaves all three of us money, but only Corey and I put a claim in for our money. They won't let you know, Tarik, hey, someone left you money too. It's up to you to know that someone left you money to send it to them. I was like, what? I was just talking to someone. They was like, yeah. They was like, because we don't want anybody just trying to like. I'm like, look, that's crazy. But this is the point of having your paperwork together. So I was sitting there thinking, how much insurance money is like that we just don't collect on because we don't have our paperwork together. How much property do we not know that people own?
Man.
You know what I mean? So this is a big deal within our community because we're already held out of a lot of things, and a lot of us are out here teaching people how to buy, teaching people how to get into the real estate game, teaching people how to buy stocks. But we need to start having these conversations about passing this property forward. And I know Tarik is big on us being made whole, which is all part of this conversation because we have to be made whole through real estate. But I just wanted to bring that up to get you guys' perspective on what you see in the current climate.
Man, my folks, my grandmother left a lot of property to us, and we haven't lost any to that entanglement, but we were very, very close because for years and years and years we argued over who should do what and how it should be done instead of just doing it. And
see, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And,
so
I heard you call it an entanglement. I heard you call it an entanglement. You sound like Jada Pinkett right now. But
hey,
go ahead,
whatever.
I'm sorry.
We're not going over entangle talk. But what happens is, right, because I'm one of those people that has a claim to ownership, I get about 10 calls a month to try to get me to sell, because what'll happen is if they get me to sell, they can force the sale of the house. And so I tell my folks, like, look, man, y'all can't sell this joint. Like, somebody call you is not to be had. You know what I mean? But I get about 10. I literally get about 10 calls a month. I get about 10 calls a month asking me, do I want to sell my portion of what's, because on the paperwork, I'm, like I said, I'm one of those people that has a claim to ownership for those family properties.
Gotcha. And
so,
Everett chimed in.
Yeah.
Real quick, Everett just chimed in. He said they're hoping it doesn't get claimed. That's exactly what they're hoping, right? But Everett, that leads me to believe that there's probably millions of dollars that hasn't been claimed. I know that people die with bank accounts. You see those things all the time. Yeah. So we probably got millions and millions of dollars in assets that just haven't been claimed because we don't know any better. Like, and that just like makes me think, like, man, it's crazy. Because think about somebody working their entire life to build this up for their family. Because one of the things we talk about in terms of accumulation is thinking generationally.
But see, that's the importance of having like a trust or something. Because my thing is, when you put it in the trust, then it doesn't get lost. You know what I mean? It's like the will is important, but also to put it in trust and say, look, it's being paid for by the estate. Put something and somebody in charge of it. But because we have been so mistreated by the system that we didn't even trust that we could put our assets in those kind of legal entanglements, because I ain't gonna say legal entanglements, but those kind of legal things, because we weren't sure they were gonna be executed upon our death. You know what I mean? And so that's the other part of it, because of the mistreatment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Reek.
Yeah, my bad. I was just saying, or flat, I just don't even know what they are.
But even if but I believe a lot of our people knew what it was and was just so, taken aback by the mistreatment of the system that they didn't want no part of the system. They was like, look, I'm gonna try to just pass it through by, look, have somebody constantly live on the land. And that's not the way that, every time you do that, you add more people to the list that have a claim to the land.
Yeah.
I had put out a tweet earlier this week. And I got a lot of feedback from it. And the tweet was about like how money conversations within like certain families in our community are taboo, but the conversations about death are even more taboo. Yeah. So I don't know about you guys' experience, but like in my family, talking to the elders, a lot of times they don't even want to talk about it. right? It's like they don't even want to put that kind of energy out there. They don't want to talk about death. But these are the kind of conversations we have to start having about upon your demise. Because if we're going to work and acquire these buildings and acquire this stock and acquire this insurance and do all these things, we have to make sure we're having the conversation about how it goes to the next generation. Because it's not just about us; it's about the family and the community overall. So, I mean, do you guys have any experience with that? Either your own family or maybe other families you try to help, or where they don't even want to have these conversations?
Yeah, so definitely, I've definitely had that situation. One where to address the first question that you said, like about just addressing how we can relate to that currently. Like, so I have been in the last 10 years, I've had to unfortunately witness two houses owned by my grandparents be lost due to tax sales, and family members not getting things together to make sure that we keep the house. And we're talking about houses that was livable, houses that that we grew up in, and everything. And also in very desirable neighborhoods as well. And a third one almost was lost, but unfortunately, I was able to help step in and help with that process. But yeah, unfortunately, man, even with all of my experience in real estate, and to tie it into, have I had family members, or do I have that problem where people don't want to discuss it? To tie that in, yeah, I own a lot of buildings.
Same here, bro.
Right, and
I lost buildings too. Same here. So you're not alone. I think all of us on this video
Yo, look, I'm
have that
telling
same
you,
experience. So don't feel bad about it.
I'm talking about, family members, unnamed family members. I'm like, yo, I do this like every single day, right? Like, let me help. Like, no, that's not right. Well, they said, no. Well, they told me, yo, I'm telling you.
Always they.
Like, who is they? I learned this in the Army, man. Who is they? What's their rank? Where they at? Like, you got their contact information. Like, don't tell me no damn day. Like, I mean, names and ranks. But like, it is so unfortunate, man, and it is very much so taboo. Like, I'm big on life insurance. I have life insurance for my kids and their mothers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get the whole package together, really, where I've had conversations with my siblings where I'm like, hey, look, we all need to each have life insurance policies on our parents and each other, and make sure that we maintain them, because any event that something takes place, the inevitable takes place, but untimely, it happens. We are protected, and like multi-level protected, because stuff happens. We've also seen where you have a policy in place and, oh, damn, I forgot. I missed a payment 2 months ago and he dropped it. Okay, so we all sitting here and we all brothers and we have the same mom and dad. We all have policies on mom and dad. But, Jimmy, you forgot to pay the bill on yours a few months ago. But me and Corey, we kept up with ours. Okay, yours dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
At least we got 2 out of 3. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So something.
You know what's crazy about that? Cats will have car insurance their whole life and never get in an accident, right? But never have life insurance. That's the one that you're going to end up cashing in on.
That's the only one you guarantee.
One day.
Only one you guarantee.
Yeah, you guaranteed it.
Only one.
Yeah. Cats be like, I can't afford. Listen, you had car insurance your whole life, man. Couple comments. Shiz, man's checking in. Shiz, what's up, bro? How you?
What's going on?
All right, so Inez says that absolutely had the same experience with my mom. Shout out to Inez. I know she just recently lost her mother, so our condolences to you with that. But yeah, man, so this is real in our community. Monica, what did Monica say? Talks about the article. That's what the article says that you just posted. The fit and trusted government. So my father never wrote a will. Yeah, so it's like that mistrust of government, which is, I'm not going to say that is not without reason, but now, like where we at now is we have to start protecting these assets.
Yeah, we got just
what I'm saying,
energy that we're putting into acquiring, and we got to protect them, man. Got to.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Reek, you're not alone. I lost a couple properties uptown, right? And this was a situation where there was no will. It's from grandparents. and they left the properties to their kids, one of which was my father, and his sister. But then what happens is they did something where they were trying, like they thought they knew what they were doing, but this is one of those situations where you leave the property in too many names, right? So you try to take care of so many people. So, and that's why I'm like, and I see this all the time though. I've actually purchased properties trying to help people clear it, because you can't leave one property to 8 grandkids. You can't do that. One person wants to live there and not pay bills. Everybody else wants to sell. Somebody's moved out of the state and they argue over it. Nothing ever happens. Shout out to our brother Malik just chimed in and said, "Get up in the state after 7 years."
Damn.
So, yeah, salute to you for having the stick to itiveness. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many properties in our city that have like clouded titles.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So we gotta make sure that like those out there, teaching it. All right. So Jabbar just checked in. You see, he says facts, but also he says this is something interesting. We got to teach you on using trust. Jabbar, you're absolutely correct. And the thing is, like, as much experience as I have in real estate and investing, that's the one thing that I need to study more on, right? So I understand the power of a trust, but I think that in talking to people that actually do that work, when they start breaking that stuff down to me, I'm like, hold up, you could do that, you could do that. So I even personally need to get more well-rounded in learning trust, because that is a powerful thing if we understand it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and he also checked in and said, good evening, everybody. So good evening, Jabbar. Appreciate that. But yeah, man. So what do you think about trust? Like, do you guys understand? Like, are you well versed in trust, Reek or Corey?
I'm not well versed. Yeah, I'm not well versed in trust, but I'm in the process of putting everything I have together and trying to establish one, because I don't want to take all the work that I'm doing and flush it. Like, I'm teaching my sons how to maintain it, and build their own. But the trust says, if I get it set up right, that I live forever. Like the way J.P. Morgan and J.D. Rockefeller, they live forever. I want to live forever. You know what I mean? Like, they live forever. Their descendants are still eating off the work they did 120 years ago, 150 years ago. So I want to be that dude.
What? Yeah, I was talking to a brother who's a real estate investor, stock investor. He's a younger guy too, but he don't even really be on social media like that. But I was having a conversation with him, and like one of the things he specializes in is trust. And he was just talking about the power of it while he's actually here. He was like, on paper, I don't own nothing. But he said, but I control. He said, I control a lot, but I don't own nothing. And he was explaining to me the power of a trust, not just for when you go, but the power of a trust even while you're here. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was interesting, like, a way to do it. Oh, that's what I said. King. Oh, he said he was correcting himself. Peace Kongs. You say what, Reek?
I seen that as well. I was saying we gotta have a conversation with him, man. He's well versed in trust.
Yeah.
I think that's just as important. Just as important as people are using their platforms, myself included, to educate us about different assets that we acquire. Mine specifically, real estate. You guys are killing it with the real estate and the stocks. And
appreciate that. You're doing your thing too, man. Like with your development, with your age, and you doing the kind of development you're doing, you're going to inspire a lot of people. But with that being said, that's why we have to add that second piece, because as they start to acquire these buildings, so we need to have a conversation with Jabbar, because he said he has both, and what he's talking about is a living will and trust. So so I have my will and all that stuff together, but the trust I don't have. So we got Jabbar. I'm gonna reach out to you after the show this weekend. I'm gonna reach out to you to get some game for you, and bring you on the show as well, because we got to share that information, like Reek just said.
We just had,
and for those who are just tuning in, we had an attorney on to explain like some of the power of it, man. But for those who just are chiming in, we were talking about an article, and let me share it again. I'm gonna share it again on both YouTube as well as Facebook. But in this article, it was said that 76% of African Americans don't have a will. Like, that's how high the number is. 76% of us don't have a will. And it also said that We lost about 90%. Let me get the actual dates to make sure I'm reading this right. It says that 76% of us don't have a will. In between 1910 and 1997, African Americans lost about 90% of their farmland. So we're talking about acres and acres of land that that we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
unbelievable. Like that's the number that threw me the most. Like there was a lot of numbers in that article, but 90%. Like damn, yo, like no, that's a ginormous. Like I was thinking like maybe 50 or 60%, but that shit's
that's a lot of wealth.
90%, man.
That's a
Like
lot of wealth.
that's like the foot on your neck, man. Like that's the ultimate foot on the neck right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a couple comments. Lamont says, "Do you define a difference between a will and a trust?" Anyone of y'all want to tackle that?
The will is what you want to happen. The direction that the directions, basically your after death directions to what what you have, and the trust says that this legal entity will dole out my whatever I have the way I say do it. So the will says give this or that to so and so and so, and the trust controls the actual assets.
Yeah, a trust is a separate entity in which you that you hold your assets in. The thing about a trust is a trust passes probate. From my understanding, like the probate process, it just passes right through that because you have beneficiaries of the trust, so it's like a separate entity.
Yeah.
Man, how about this comment right here? And I know you guys probably seen this. Too many of us believe GoFundMe's are wills.
Oh
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. No, not even wills, but insurance. Like, it's not even the will. The GoFundMe is not even the will. That's the insurance. Like, the insurance is the minimum. Like, I don't. Like, one of the reasons why I think I'm still alive is because I have so much insurance on me. I don't think nobody will kill me because they don't want to make my family so wealthy. I think that's one of the reasons I'm still alive. I'm just gonna keep it a bean because I have so much insurance that they don't want me out of here. Like, yo, we might actually have to pay this dude. We might actually have to pay out. So listen. Literally everybody, I tell everybody to take insurance out on me. Take it out. Go ahead. Like, because I was living, like, especially when I was younger, I was living reckless. And one of the reasons I think that I'm still alive is because I have a truck ton of insurance on me.
That's
my
another
mom,
thing too,
my
right?
sister, my wife, my brothers, like everybody has insurance out on me. So if you knock me down, you just about to turn, my whole family about to turn out. You know what I mean? Turn out and turn up.
But that's the thing, right? So, and we mentioned it earlier about, like, that's the one thing that we know we're not going to get out of here without having to collect on that if you have it. So it's important to have insurance, and that's a conversation that we need to have. But overall, I think we need to start talking about, like, our planning just more. But this article, Reek, man, like, I appreciate you for sharing that with us because there's so many gems in there. Like you said, it's a whole course within that article about asset protection, about just like history, a lot about history, and it tells it from the framework of those two brothers.
I'm working on it, bro. I'm working on it. Like,
yeah.
It's the moment I didn't even get finished reading the article actually before I did this. I got right on the phone, shot my attorney a text. I said, "Yo, we had to handle a few matters. We just found out everything's great with those a couple of weeks ago. I gave him a little break. I said, look, I need to talk about this. Let me know when you are ready, because I need to put some things in motion right away. Because even also just as important as knowing what a trust is and knowing what a will is updating it. So those are things that we.
Man, that's another great point. That's a great point.
Even like you guys touched on it. What Corey was talking about with the life insurance, man. That's another thing. My daughter is about to turn 1 in a couple of weeks. I got to get baby girl situated. I got a brother, and their mom, and everything is good, but I don't have it for her yet. You know, just we got to keep it going. We got to keep it going. I got a little nephew that's just turned 1. I don't have it for him yet. Oh, I got it. You know, it's just those before the pandemic started, and I would encourage other families to do this if you can, even if it's virtual, if you're still social distancing and everything. My family and I, we had dedicated every other Sunday to family dinners. And what the objective of the family dinners were for us to relax with each other, fellowship, you know, just talk about how things are going since the last time we've seen each other. And that would pretty much make up about 60 to 70% of our time together during that evening. And then the remaining 30 to 40% of it would be us specifically talking about our financial goals and things pertaining to our finances.
That's dope. That's dope.
Everything from credit to real estate to life insurance, and then, you know, COVID happened, and then unfortunately we haven't been able to do that, but we have actually started talking about this again. But these are things that
I gotta steal that. I'm stealing that idea. I'm just like, you know, that's a dope idea.
Please do, because it's necessary, man. It's necessary because while we still going to be fighting for our just due equity that we are owed from this country, we need to put a plan of action together for us to generate our own equity, right? And in the process of us generating that own equity, we need to know how to protect it, pass it on, and keep it going. And I just took
absolutely.
And I'm just talking about 3 things here because I like to keep it like I feel like with our people, right, where we struggle as it pertains to what's the word? As it pertains to our agenda and making sure and getting that agenda across the table to the powers that be and getting making our voices heard. We can't agree on shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about police brutality. Let's talk about, you know, redlining. Let's talk about this. And then one thing that I think that we all can agree on is that we are owed equity. We are owed equity.
Yep.
And then there's a whole bunch of, you know, holes that, you know, rabbit holes you can go down within.
Yeah. How do we get it? There's all kinds of different things, but we are owed. Yes, we can agree on that.
So within us obtaining that equity, we can have 1,000,000,001 ideas, but I got 3 that I feel like if we start focusing on these 3 things, we will find ourselves being able to put ourselves in a better position to obtain and pass it on. And we've talked about 2 already: a will and a trust and life insurance, man. And obviously we know the real estate and everything, but those 3 things are going to essentially guarantee, even if you don't ever acquire an asset, right? When you are ultimately called to go home and your days are done, if you have life insurance, the person who is in the inheritant of that life insurance policy now acquires wealth. 1.
Yep.
Now, any other thing that you own in your trust or in your will that you've directed to go to X, Y, and Z to so-and-so to do such and such will then also be given to them. So now they got some cash and they got a game plan and a plan of action, you know?
Which is the trust.
And in that moment, that person now not only has the power to do some stuff, they got the instructions to obtain it.
Yeah.
And rule number one is going to be make sure you got to trust a will life insurance.
Yeah. You got to do the same thing.
Now you got to go do the same thing. And this is your foundation. You got a will, trust, and life insurance, right? Okay, cool. Boom. Now, if that person takes, let's just say $100,000, and when their time is up, they've turned that into $1 million. And the next generation takes that $1 million and turns it to 10 million, and the next to 100 million, so on and so forth. You have just from one line of you, your son, and his son have created hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, and that's the thing, man. So everybody watching, man, let's get on that, man. Listen, he said he broke it down. Like there's only 3 things: insurance, wills, and trust. We got a couple comments I want to get to. This one is for you, Reek. Shizman says he's driving a truck on the road and gave up his condo just so he can save every dime and build up his credit so he can buy a multi-unit. He finally has some bread saved up. He wants to know, can you help him? So, and also, just to let you know, he says, he said he watched you rehab. He watched you rehab those brownstones. He's trying to do what you're doing. Like I said, for those who don't know, Reek has some of the, I call it some of the best property in Philadelphia, man. Those brownstones down there, off 33rd, those are amazing, man. So and I'm so glad that someone that looks like me actually got them. Because like I said, those are some of the most beautiful properties in Philadelphia, especially North Philadelphia. So those are some amazing properties down there. Got another comment here from D. Wilson. This was on Facebook. Says, I want to help. I live in Peekskill, New York. You remind me of our mayor. We need this so bad right now. I've worked in the financial markets for over 30 years. How can I help? D, shoot us an inbox. Shoot us an inbox at By the Hood, and we're going to talk because we're actually putting together a camp for the kids. Like we do a free camp every year, usually in the community, but we're going to try to move it online. So we are looking for people that want to help out as a way just to give back, to try to give some game out there about, finances or what have you. We'll see what Monica said real quick. Says that, let's get this comment up here. I think we need to use, in addition to writing out a will, use video too. Sometimes when older family members change their wills, their mental status can be called into question to nullify an updated will. Ooh, that is true. Yeah. And we've seen it play out. Yeah. That's true. You can get right on the video. These are my wishes. Add that to it. You know what I mean? Another comment from Callie. Salute to Callie. Tarik, my husband and I attempted to do that concept with our family. So far, they have only committed to one weekly family prayer, but it's a start. Got to start somewhere, but that's a great idea.
That's a good start.
And also, and yeah, listen, you can start right now with just Zoom. Get everybody on the Zoom or something while we still practicing social distancing. Get everybody on the Zoom. I think that'll help. Jabbar says, I got my man $4 million and had it all put into a trust for his kids. He passed at 35 and his kids are set for life. Took me 2 years to get him to do it. Was $1K a month and he died 2 years later. So I know the power of this because my dad had life insurance that got us through. He passed at 57. We have to educate our people. Completely agree with that. Completely agree. All right. Yeah. Completely with that, man. But I like the way you broke that down. These three things, man.
Yeah, we got, because bro, I'm telling you, you can go down a rabbit hole if you like, because that's the problem is like you got so many different subgroups within the Black community that all have different agendas and point of views based on their experiences and things that they care more or less about, and those are the views they're pushing. And there needs to just be one, maybe two that we gotta that'll get us through the door. You know what I mean? Once we get through the door, okay, all right, now, miss me with name changes and people not calling plantation shutters, and taking statues down.
The pandering.
The Redskins name. What else they doing? They changing street names.
All kinds of things.
They took off cops and Paw Patrol.
At the football games. None of that shit sounds like equity to me.
Nothing. None of it.
None of it is.
They call it Pander
Equity. Pander Express.
Pander Express. That's what it is. Pander Express. That's what we call it, man. Because it's all BS, right? Equity is what we need. Equity and power, man. And power comes through equity. So you're right about that. And the thing is, go ahead, Reek.
One thing on that topic, man. I just want to give an example of how equity changes things for you. I referenced the Washington Redskins is what they are currently still called, right? The NFL football franchise. They have been battling with the owner of the team in Washington since the 70s, asking him to change his name. Several different people within the Native American community, just people in general who aren't Native Americans, people who just blatantly just don't like the name and they feel that it is just racially insensitive, and rightfully so. This man would not consider changing his name until they had a group of investors totaling up to $620 million of revenue to his business said, yo, FedEx, Pepsi, and someone else and Nike, we want it changed. Make him change it, or we're going to adjust how we allocate our $620 million. The name will certainly be changed very soon. That's the power of equity.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they made up like 49% of the ownership. I think he had the other 51, but
what could not be done in 50 years is going to be dismantled in a matter of a couple of months, because people would purchase power and equity, say, yo, we want change.
Corey talks about that all the time. Talks about that all the time.
Elsewhere.
Like, people be talking about boycotting. I'm like, look, forget the boycotts. Buy in. If you stop buying, if you boycott, that takes away money temporarily. If you buy in, you actually get a say. Like, stop. Don't do it the opposite way. Do it the opposite way. Buy in.
Shout out to Ma said they're not doing anything that anybody gives a shit about, which is absolutely true.
This is 1,000% true. 1,000% true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
here's the other one.
The master bed. Yeah, nobody care about that.
Right. What?
Call it what you want to call it. Call it whatever the hell you want to call it. None of that shit bother us.
Your replacement of that. The big bedroom. Like what? Come on,
nobody cares.
Which is what we got from the civil rights.
Sounds like tokenism, which is what we got from the civil rights movement. Yeah, man. Listen, don't give me no tokens, man. Pay me an equity or keep it, man. Like, because the bullshit you like, people like. I hate the word reform. Fix it. I don't want to hear nothing about no damn reforms. Fix it. Like the reason why we keep getting reform is because we keep accepting stuff. Like, all right, yeah, give me this little piece, give me this little movement, and then be satisfied with that until we're ready to give you the next piece. Nah, man, fix that shit.
And here's my perspective, right? My perspective is this. The analogy I like to use is like you going out for a meal. And so the thing about some of these token things and some of this pandering, I'm not completely saying that statues and things don't matter, because some of that stuff matters, but it doesn't matter as much as the meat of the situation, right? So, I mean, if you want to look at anything else, you could look at white Jesus and tell me that it don't matter. It actually matters, but it's like going to get a meal. What they're doing now is they're giving you appetizers, right? So changing these names and stuff is like, yo, here's your appetizer, here's that appetizer. They're never giving you the meal.
They're trying to get you
full off all the appetizers, so they never have to give you the meal. They sit out here giving you onion rings and mozzarella, all the little appetizers. We're gonna fill you up with appetizers.
Ain't doing shit for you, but actually killing you still.
Exactly. So, I mean, but that's the bottom line. We need to ask for equity. Equity is where the power is. That's the mill. That's what we want. Jose says reform means adjustment, not change. It has included name changes, policy changes, nothing of actual substance. We completely agree with that, man. So, and this is why that article is so powerful. That article leads to all these conversations, which is why it was an important piece. And everybody out there, I did put it in the comments. Make sure you go back and check out that article, because it's a lot of information in there. And it's a book also called The Color of Law. The Color of Law is an amazing book if you want to understand how real estate has been used as a tool of oppression in this country. It's two books I recommend all the time. One is The Color of Law, and the other one is a book called Family Properties by Beryl Satter. So I've actually done research and read on this, and those two books.
Properties.
Yeah, it's called Family Properties. Yeah,
and the author's called Family Properties, but the dude is Beryl Satter.
It's a woman. It's Beryl Satter, Beryl, and the last name is Satter, Beryl Satter. But it's a pretty good book, and it gives you more of the historical context. But that book right there shows you how in the inner cities we weren't allowed to buy properties in our own neighborhoods. So what they would do is they would buy these properties and give us these crazy mortgages, to the point where sometimes in the quote unquote hood, our people were paying 10 times what people were paying in, say, like Beverly Hills and some of the suburbs, because we didn't own any of the property. So they own the property. The only way we could access it is to go through them. And the reason they were able to own the property and we couldn't was because of redlining, because of the loan situations. And so a lot of people will work. And if you miss one payment, you out of here. They would give you like a lease to own a property, right? A property would cost $35,000, and you'd be paying $2,000 a month after they put this crazy interest on it. it's so nasty. Like some of the stuff that we had to endure is just so nasty. But I mean, information is in book. Like,
don't forget about the clauses that the FHA required of developers who wanted to build suburbs.
Oh yeah.
Specifically stated that they would not sell to African Americans if they allow them to build these and have them be funded by FHA loans.
Yeah, man.
Those are still in deeds of properties to this day. That language is still.
Listen, I bought a property in Germantown and it was in the deed. I mean, I was like, yo, like this is crazy. Like I have one, like, and you know, it actually gave me extra pride in owning a building. Like, now I got it. But anyway, Jabbar says, how 300 plus million is only one created school, but we own jails. How about we pull our resources together and create support wealth education? Listen, pulling our resources together is definitely something we
gonna definitely link with Jabbar.
That's a great point, Jabbar. That's exactly what I'm talking about. How we all have so many different ideas, man, and in the process, we don't agree to just like a targeted thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of that, we just all kind of like we will all agree with all the different ideas that people come up with, but when we bring it together, we're not unified. We don't have a unified front. So unfortunately, we aren't able to move as swiftly and aggressively as we would if we were all like, listen, this is the goal right here. This is the goal right now.
Yeah.
Once we get in the house, then we'll talk about all the other stuff, how we create to make sure we stay here. Because if to be quite honest with you, as it pertains to symbolism, right? You know, you guys, I don't know if we ever got a chance to talk about this, but when I was a teacher, when I was an educator in the state of Virginia, I worked in Petersburg, Virginia, right? And I was also in the military. I went to Fort Lee military base almost every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Named after Robert E. Lee. I visited Robert E. Lee Middle School. What was it? JB Wells, I think his name is. I've rode past statues of Stonewall Jackson up and down Monument Avenue. If anybody that's watching,
so it's all around you.
I know exactly where it's at. I'm talking about. I'm working in schools. I was a site coordinator for an organization called Communities in Schools, a nonprofit organization. I'm working in schools with 99% Black kids, and they going to school.
And they gotta see that every day.
They don't even know that these schools are named after Confederate soldiers. They don't even know the streets that they walk up in. Now get this. I've been to Lee Elementary. I've been to Fort Lee during my military career, and I lived on Lee Avenue when I lived in Virginia. I can't make this shit up. I didn't even know how Lee was back when I first came to Virginia in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Imagine the kids that went to these schools. So, and then they finally realized this is like that gloom of oppression hanging over you. So I do not disregard symbolism. But if I had to pick one, somebody taking a damn statue down and us giving us equity, so then we can buy our own.
Absolutely.
Have our own schools, or then we address changing.
Give us that equity
first. Give me that first. Then we can make some change.
Give us that equity. I just want to put this comment out there. Mine said it's all academic for far too long. We haven't had it. We about to buy in. It's like poker. Love y'all for what y'all doing. Appreciate that. Mom, I'm gonna reach out to you as well. Hit you up offline so we can talk about the Sixers thing. But yeah, we about to get off here soon, man. But Jabbar, I just want Jabbar, I'm gonna reach out to you and let you know that I see your comments, but I'm gonna reach out to you. I'm gonna hit you up on IG and inbox you. But Reek, man, thank you for that article, man. Before we get started, how can the people get in contact with you? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I'm on Facebook, Tarik McAllister. I'm on Instagram, of course, Reek Estate. Put it up here in the box. I hope you guys can see it. On both platforms, man. You know, I'm a little bit more wordy on Facebook than I am on Instagram. I typically just share a lot of stuff on Instagram. I got to be honest with you, man. These past few months, I'm still super active in the real estate space all the time. Like I've even ventured back out to some out of town investments that I'm looking forward to sharing some progress on as well. But man, it's just been on my heart so much to just share more things pertaining to the things that I feel like that I truly feel that our people are going to be able to benefit from and make change personally, to be able to eventually put themselves and their families in position to be able to create the change that we each individually to be able to collectively make change, man. So, I'm going to try to, bear with me. I'm human, I'm gonna try to share more about real estate because when people are like, dang, you still investing in real estate? Trust me, I'm doing it every single day.
Yeah, we're gonna get you back on our main podcast too, so we could talk about what you got going on as well. Because I know this was a specific conversation, but we'll reach back out to you, get you on our main platform and talk about what you got going on with business wise. Because everybody wants to reach out to you and yeah. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that article. For those watching, make sure you take a look at the article. It's in the comments. It's a powerful article. I'm also going to put it on our page once we get off here. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you share this all across your social media. The whole video will probably have up also on our IGTV by tomorrow. But in the meantime, it's on Facebook and YouTube. I want to say thank you for watching it. And thank you for all the great comments. Thank you for, bringing all the various points, because that's why we like to do this Friday live show. Every Friday from 7 to 8, we're here. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we don't, but we had to bring Reek on because that article, blew us away and had us all thinking, man. So Reek, just want to say thank you again, good brother. Thanks for everything you do in the community as well. And man, take care of those amazing buildings, man. Take care of amazing buildings. For everybody out there, man, tune in for our podcast. Our podcast this Wednesday, we coming up. We have a young sister who is a trader. She's a stock trader, a day trader, who's a sister, and she's killing it. So make sure you tune into that podcast. And we'll be back here next Friday on another live. So, all right, y'all. Y'all have a good evening. Y'all good weekend, and check us out next week. And don't forget Wednesday to check out the podcast. And we'll talk to y'all. Peace.
Love you, man. Love you.
Yeah, man.